Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me today on what is likely going to be my last video for 2024. As you guys have been following in my video series, we are creating a self-hosted environment. In today's video, we're going to be creating a DNS server using BIND9 on Ubuntu. This will be a bare metal install. I had considered doing a containerized version of this for the video, but I figured I'd go with the bare metal install for now, and at a later point I could show you guys how to do a containerized install for this. Now, if you're asking why we would set up our own DNS server, I'm sure many of you have seen videos online on how to create internal DNS servers to map stuff in your home internally. But this DNS server, its primary function will be for external access. And this will become very important as we start adding more systems to the environment. So our email gateway, our reverse proxy, your Nextcloud server, email server, etc., etc. This DNS server will be internet accessible. So for the sake of this video, I've opted to use the domain y2.ak'tu.onl. Now, how did I come to that domain? Well, I bought it, and you'll have to buy a domain from a registrar. Those are relatively cheap. You know, when you buy a website, usually you can get a domain. So when I created this domain, I had it under the name server option. I pointed it to my server that's on the internet. For the sake of this case, I'm running a machine on the cloud that I'm going to be using for this case. I will tear it down afterward, and you guys will see how when I populate stuff into this DNS server, you'll see it on the internet, and that's where it comes in handy. So for the purposes of this video series, you'll see me continue using that configuration moving forward. So just like I did with the router config in the last video, in this video I will be showing you guys my base template for a DNS server, and then everything I do from this point forward will be under the expectation you guys have followed this video series so far. So with all that being said, our DNS server is going to be sitting right behind our PFSense router right here. Okay. And we are going to be doing a NAT on port 53 UDP from the internet to it, so it'll resolve out. Okay. So let's go ahead and get our server set up. So I'm just going to go ahead and, this is just a test box. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in as root. I don't always suggest you do that, but this is a test box for me, so it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not going to be too concerned if something happens to it. Now, this document will be updated. It's the same one I've been showing everyone as we go along. I will be putting this on my website for you guys to download and follow along if you wish. So if we look here, I'm just going to scroll down. Give me 1 second. If you scroll down here, this is now the configuration that we're going to do right here. So I'm going to copy and paste. Now I'm copying and pasting from a text file, not from here, just because it makes my life a little easier, but it's the exact same. Okay, so let me just go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to make this full screen for now. We'll come back to the videos to my browser and to the PDF document. So let me go ahead and press install here. And this install is on a Ubuntu 22.04 server. But any popular distribution will have a packaged binary for BIND9, and there are others as well, but I'm just opting to use BIND9 in this case. So let's just wait for that to complete. Okay, there we go. So system C. Oh, this computer's being a little slow today. I can't spell to save my life today. There we go. Let's try that. Okay, there we go. So right now we have the status of our DNS server as inactive, dead. And that's fine for now because there's no configuration that we're using right now. So let's dive into the config. And if you look on the document here, we are first going to open up the config.options. And just so you guys know, for the purposes of as this being an introduction for everyone, I put comments on every portion of the document so you guys can follow along and make your config work for you. So you wouldn't need these hashed out commented areas, but I am putting them in there for you guys to follow along. All right, so let's go ahead and do the first one. So we're going to go to the named.conf.options file. And we're just going to let that load here. There we go. Now, we are going to be overwriting all this information, so you can go ahead and delete it. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I use VI, but you can change it to a different writer if you want. I'm going to do set paste. And I'm going to paste everything I'd given you guys. So let me just grab it from my file here. There we go. So as a high-level summary, we are creating an ACL or a security group pretty much, and we're allowing anyone to query this server. I did put one in here for the future as an internal network. We will follow up on this in a later video, but for now I'm going to leave it as is. And these are the options for the DNS server. So our cache, what's allowed to query, for any sort of recursive forwarding queries, we're using these DNS servers, and we're setting DNSSC to auto for now, so we don't need this part here. Let's go ahead and save this. All right, and then we're going to go to the next portion. Named.conf. Let's go. Let me just pull this here. Now we're going to go to the local file, which is this one. And there should be very little in here, if anything. There's nothing in here. These are all commented out. So now we're going to add our configuration in here. So let me just copy this. Sorry. There we go. So what are we doing in here? We are telling them what our domain is going to be. ytube.ak'tu.onl. This is the master. If we set up a distributed DNS environment, which is what I would suggest you do if you're going to have a full-blown self-hosted environment. That, for the purposes of this video, I'm not showing that. We can show that in another video series. Anyways, this is the primary DNS server that will have the full authority for this domain. All right, this is the location of our configuration file, and you guys will see what that looks like in a bit. And then what systems are allowed to query? We are letting the ACL for internet, which is the one we had set up in the other file, and allowing query any. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this. And now we're going to create that actual configuration file. This is the one you guys are going to be using the most when it comes to your DNS server. Everything else is going to be mostly static. Okay, let me just copy. This is a slightly bigger file. We have a few more entries in here. Let me copy all this. And here we go. Okay, let me just save this. And I probably didn't show you that with time. So this is the configuration file we had indicated in the other file. So ytube.ak'tu.onl.conf. That's my domain, the one that I'm designating, that I'm showing you guys on the internet here. All right, and here is the configuration of a primary domain controller. And again, I've commented out anything else, anything that you guys would need to modify. Okay, so this is the SOA record. So in that case, this is the primary server. This makes it authoritative. Okay, this is the details that you would have. I use the date and time for my serial number, but you can change it to whatever you want. The refresh time, retry, expiry time, and minimum TTL. All right. The name servers, in this case, I have 3 that I'm using, but you can use 1. So if anything, I could remove these two right now. For this domain, I only need 1 realistically. Okay. And this is the A record for my primary domain. Okay. So we're going to leave that in there. Now, here are the different records. So this is your A records. I should probably put this in here as a A records. And here's where you're going to see that any record we create these are the records that are going to show up on the internet. So for now, I'm just going to create A records so I can show you guys what it looks like on the internet. But in coming videos, when we do the email servers, we'll enter MX records, TXT records, CNAME records. So let me go ahead and show you guys. I'm going to do a test. I'm going to do a YouTube. YouTube live, that's what I'm going to call it. That's an A record, and I'm going to make it the IP of 1.0.0.1, which these are Google DNS servers. It's not going to go anywhere, but I'm going to show you guys later on in the video how I can change these IP addresses, and that's what's going to be reflected on the internet when anyone tries to hit these records. So I'm going to save this. And then we're going to go ahead and start our service. So we're going to enable it first. I might actually have started already. Let me take a look. Yeah, it's running. So we're just going to have to restart it. Okay, that's been restarted. And as I've said in other videos before, systemctl enable is to make sure it starts up on reboot. So once that's done, our DNS server has been set up and good to go. All right, so let me go ahead and show you guys on the router what we'd have to do. So let me just bring that up here. I'm going to get rid of the terminal for a second here, and we're going to go to, okay. So this is the exact same router we had set up in the last video. So the only changes I've made are the ones that you will see in the PDF document here. Let me bring that up here quickly. So that would be right here. It's these settings here, and I'm going to walk you guys through it in the video, but these would be the changes we'd be making. Let me bring back the browser. Okay. So first thing I want to do is I want to go to firewall, and I want to go to aliases. Okay, and then you can see here, this is my DNS server. I set it as a host, and this is the IP address for that DNS server. If I go ahead and click on edit here, you'll see here, that's the IP address, and I just documented it as such. So now this is the alias. So after that, I'd have to go to firewall. I'd go to NAT. Let that load here. And here is our one rule for port forwarding. Let me go ahead and edit it here for you. And you can see on here, we have, the interface for this rule is the WAN side. It's IPv4, UDP, which is what DNS uses. and then destination is WAN. My port range is DNS, and then my redirect target IP is address or alias DNS server, which is what I had created on the last page. And the reason I go with an alias versus the IP address is you might want to change your IP address, but you don't have to worry about updating any rules that are attached to that server or service. So that in the future, you would just have to update the IP and the alias, and all the rules will automatically be updated. It also makes it easier to read. And our redirect port, DNS as well, and we save. At that point, it will ask us to apply the rule. So it's not going to ask me that now because I've already saved these rules. We'll let that save. And you'll have to forgive me, guys. This computer's running a little slow today. It's probably because I'm running a few other things in the background here. Anyways, once that saves, a neat little tool I like to use to check on your DNS server and your services is what's mydns.net. So this is the name server, this is the domain. If I do a search, and you may have to give it some time, and that's why you'll notice that some of these are not working, but some of them are because it starts replicating over the world. This basically means that these DNS servers all over the world, when someone tries to connect to them to look up my name server, my domain server, they are seeing that record. And if you did an A record for it, you'll see its current IP, and that IP will change from time to time. Then, as you can see there, the IP is updating. Again, in order, you'd have to have a stable system that would show records over time, which would then allow you to look at all those records. And if you guys remember, we set a subdomain of test. And there you go again. These error invalid servers are it just hasn't propagated. I just set the server up right now. So it would take some time for those to show up. And I think I did one more, which I believe was YouTube Live. So if I change this one may not be live yet, and I just have to wait a little longer. There you go, see? YouTube Live is set to 1.0.0.1. I can set that IP to whatever I want. Obviously, I want to set it to my own servers, but this is the power of having your own DNS servers. You can set those IPs to whatever you want. Let me know if you have any questions on this video. I was really struggling to figure out the best way to go through this video. It's one of the reasons why I opted to go with a bare metal install versus a container. I figured that complexity might be a little too much for the beginning of this video series. If there's any questions, I will make follow-up videos for this. And like I said, I will be using this DNS server as my my launching point for all the other services that we will set up as this video series continues moving forward. Happy holidays to everyone, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.